We'll have to talk about this on the show.
That's actually one of the first things. That's one of the first things that Dr. Prince told me when he first started teaching me voodoo. It's crazy because he says, you want to learn how to make powders you can blow onto people to make them die. You want to do this. That was one of the things he says is actually a flashlight. He says you can take a flashlight and beam it on somebody and give them your intention, whatever your intention is. Speak that at the time you flash the flashlight on them. And so it's a similar thing. But yeah, that's crazy. So
yeah. Well, that's set up to do basically what the flashlight is doing. They're using the light from the flashlight as a carrier wave. Okay. They used to call it a templethone, and that right there has an amplifier in it. It has a pickup coil, like where the energy from your hand, the chakra, the minor chakra that's in your hand, is picked up by the pickup coil, is amplified, then projected through that infrared light toward the target. I mean, hell, JS has done a few experiments over at Walmart, fucking with the what do you call them, the Walshans, or what the hell?
Walmartians. No, yeah, I took it to Walmart for the intent of trying to make someone fall on their face, like Crowley did, where he started mimicking the guy, and then he drops to his knees, and he drops to his knees. And so I'm actually putting my shit in the truck, and this big, tall, goofy looking motherfucker, pulls up, he's blasting rap music, he gets out, he's fucking waddling in his little sagging pants. I'm like, I'm gonna make him fall on his face. So I pointed at him, and really, I said, stumble, and I imagined him just falling on his face. Stand there for 2 seconds. Okay, it didn't happen instantly. All right, so I start putting my shit back in my truck, and I look back over at him. He gets up to the doors. It's probably 7 seconds after I did it, and he starts looking up and just fucking stumbling around. He's waddling this day. People are like, "Hey man, are you okay?" And he's just like someone whacked him over the head with a ball peen hammer and fucking just made him start stumbling all over the place. He didn't fall on the ground, but it did rattle his brain. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I use that. By the way, everyone, I already hit record, so that's totally awesome. As we were standing there, we always got me on top. I was at my job. I needed to get my supervisor's attention. So I just pulled out, because I've been carrying it around at my job because I drive around. So anytime there is some BS, I have beamed that. And it isn't exactly right off the get, but it's about, I don't know, I feel like a 15-second, 20-second delay. And then the thing comes about and happens. But I would beam that and think about, hey, I got to get your attention. And as soon as I would do that, it would be like they stopped, looked over, it was like a little a satellite thing right to me, and then come walk on over to me. And I had that happen twice with that thing, so I could for sure attest to it.
You know what? So I kind of want to pick your brain on this, Dr. Mulder, because you're talking about something where, if you're using the flashlight, you're using the beam of light as a carrier wave to carry your intention. Right. This is really interesting because there is something that happens when whether you're using a stick pad or just turning the dials, you can feel the moment where your body tells you stop. And at that point, there is a very subtle, a burst of energy, I think, that comes out of you at that moment. And that's actually what powers the device, huh?
A possibility. Some people are more sensitive to that than others. I think it just depends on how tuned in you are to your, your psychic awareness, quote unquote. But yeah, it's just kind of it's like a hunch. Like for the average layman, it'd be you follow your hunch, your intuition, your gut, that kind of a thing. But yeah, I did some experiments where I was doing one. I was trying to project. There was a house that had demonic. That apparently was. Had some kind of a demon or something inside of it that was bothering the owners of the house. They said, "Hey, can you do something to help me get rid of this thing?" And this is when I first started getting into radionics. And I really didn't. And I told the story several times before with Elle. What happened was they said, "Okay, we got this demon. We're seeing flies in the middle of winter. And my husband got scratched. I got three scratches. Yeah. The stories. Anyway." So what I did was I projected Christ energy, usually a machine, this is back in the old days, projected Christ energy toward that target because I really didn't know how to try to, hey, demon, go somewhere else. Yeah. But I projected that energy to the target. And within a couple of days, the the owner got back to me and said, I don't know what happened here, but the gray clouds have left, the sun's shining. It's just like an easy feeling thing. But when I did that, when I turned that dial, doing that, I could feel that energy like what you're talking about. But it was like intense, man. I mean, it was like you could just feel it. It's like from head to toe. I don't know what it was. It was electric.
So yeah, that's one of the crazy things is sometimes it seems like, and it just seems random because sometimes I'll feel that super strong, sometimes not, and I don't feel like it has anything to do with like how much I desire the thing, because it does just seem like sometimes the energy is just there, super strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what it's like for me. What you described, EA. Like whenever I hit the right frequency on that dial, like the muscle in my right side of my face actually twitches whenever I hit the right frequency at the same time my finger sticks, and yeah, that burst of energy comes out of me. So that's what it's like for me. And I believe you told me that story before, Doc, where you put a cross on the Radionics box with like a picture of the house and got rid of it. Now, am I wrong? Like you did say that after that that entity started fucking with you, correct?
You are correct. You are correct. And I said, who are you? And I don't like to repeat demons' names. It's just my belief system, okay? But it sounds like the title to that, I think, Zeppelin 4 album, okay? Begins with a Z, a 2-syllable word, okay? Uh-huh. The one with Stairway to Heaven. You know what I'm talking about?
Gotcha.
All right. Yeah. And so, that's what it said it was. And so what I did was I projected that entity to a district attorney in Panhandle of Florida. Okay, because I was working with a client and this guy was just a pain in the ass. And so I said, oh, okay, well, don't mess with me. I got bigger fish for you to fry. Go mess with this clown down in Florida. Okay, and that's exactly what happened. But yeah, I started to get like thoughts of suicide, putting a shotgun in my mouth, that kind of a thing. I was like, where the hell is this coming from? And so, and I think, and I'm glad you brought that up, JS, because that's a good warning to people when you're messing with stuff. Protect yourself, because these bad boys will fly back at you.
Well, that's something like when anybody's researching this or anything paranormal or supernatural, they have what's called hitchhikers. They'll go home and they'll start having the exact same thing start happening at their home. So I mean, I guess since we're recording this, we're going to share this with the public. Let's give them something they can chew on. What kind of things, Dr. Mulder, do you recommend to do to protect yourself? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't do protections and shit. I open the doors and I just let it come. But that's not safe for most people.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Here's a real simple method which I started incorporating after this. Again, when I started doing this, I was just a neophyte, man. I was just beginning. I was just a babe in the woods, right? What I do is if I'm dealing with something that's a little quote unquote naughty. And I feel like I may have picked up some kind of negative energy or what have you. All I do is go to the sink in my bathroom, turn on the cold water, cup my hands under that cold water, and bring it back, and start mentally projecting all that negative energy into the water. And you can physically feel it get warmer. I mean, like that fast. I mean, you can physically feel it warm up. After I feel like, okay, I've gotten all this negative energy out of my system, it's in the water, I simply open my hands and let it go down the sink.
But so in both cases, just to point out something here, in both cases where you sent the thing to the prosecuting attorney, and then with this here, one of the big things I'm seeing that you're doing, you're giving the spirit or energy somewhere else to go. This is Correct. One of the big important things. Is a lot of people are just cast out. Well, that's just not going to work. The spirit's just going to come right back. It needs a home, and so you got to give it a home.
Yeah, and I gave it a good home.
Did you use your Radionics box? In like the conversation with it. Okay, so then you were able to tell it.
Yeah, I knew what it was. Okay, it gave me its name. So I went ahead and said, okay, blank, you go to Florida. And I even had a picture of the target, which was this particular attorney, or the district attorney. So I said, go to him, enjoy yourself. And Chuck told me this particular demon has a lot to do with weather. And I don't know, maybe it's coincidental or whatever, but they had like a torrential rainstorm in downtown, and it's a major city off the Panhandle. They had a torrential storm, and the courthouse got flooded. The basement got flooded. We have all the records. I mean, I'm just telling you, it was like weird weather anomalies after that happened. So I don't know.
But speaking of which, with weird weather, all right. So we all know you can use energy to affect the weather.
Correct.
Now, you might have been noticing we got some crazy weather going on, and so that makes me wonder what's going. I'll just throw it out to all of you. What do you think is going on in the astral realm or the energy world that's shaking loose right now in the weather patterns? Because this is going pretty crazy.
Well, I already know you guys have definitely all, influenced the weather. I mean, I've now had weather's honestly the thing that's 100%. Every time I'm doing anything for weather, that just works. Like, it's weird, like I'll be driving around and it's blue sky above me, but everywhere else around it's like an eye of the hurricane. The storm goes around, and even going back and checking the maps before the projection, and then like when the thing's occurring, it looking like it goes around. It doesn't get rid of, but the energy once again gets dispersed. And I do feel like lots more people have this technology that are even talking about the technology. And I think that it's something that it is definitely exponentially people are learning more about. But I think there are people out there doing stuff like that, as well as the shifts in the pole of the earth, I feel like is really affecting the weather. But I do feel like there are other magicians out there causing a lot of things, because if I've been able to do the things, and I know JSU with the freaking volcano, I mean, it's like, if we have these abilities and there's other people at that, maybe everyone's shaking up some shit, but that's just a guess.
Yeah. Well, and to think about that, like every single person who all of a sudden in the last couple decades has started getting crystals and started doing energy healing and all of these things, it has created an energy explosion on this planet. So,
yeah.
What would you look like you had something to throw in there, Dr. Mulder?
Well, you were talking about energy anomalies. I have a good friend of mine who's also a magician. I have field test a lot of the stuff that I do. Like, for example, he field tested the Genesis 2.0, which I turned on to both L and JS. And what he's using it for was weather anomalies. And that's, basically he lives about 150 miles, point blank, you're right in the center of Death Valley. He lives about 150 miles west of it, okay, like out in the middle of the desert. And he started using that thing back in, I think it was October of last year. And he gave me an example of what was going on. There was like a dried lake bed, okay? And so within about 4 months, they've had so much rain out in the middle of the desert, it's almost like 4 feet deep.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
And Death Valley, too. That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, Death Valley's like, there's nothing there, man. It's desert. You might as well be in the middle of the Middle East, right? And, another thing I thought was pretty cool, about radionics and weather is the experiment that JS's daughter did. Do you mind telling the audience about that story? I know you talked about it several times.
Oh, yeah. And that's a good example, too, because even a small child can use this if you show them how. It was a few years ago. Now I live down south. We never get snow on Christmas. It maybe snows here like every few years. We'll get a little bit of snow, a couple inches, and it melts by noon the next day. Like, we don't get much snow. We get ice cold rain in the wintertime. And so, my daughter looks at me. She's like, "Daddy, I really want snow for Christmas this year. Can we do a magic spell to make it snow?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah." Oh yeah, we can. And so like I go get, it was just a regular wish box. It wasn't even like a Genesis or anything. It was a regular wish box. I printed out an aerial picture of this county on Google Earth, and then I printed out a picture of a blizzard. I put the blizzard on the input. I put the picture of the county on the output. I plugged the radionic helmet into the input jack, and I sat there and I tuned all the dials for her. I tuned the dials on the helmet. I had her sit at the table and I put the helmet on her. I said, "All right, all you got to do is sit there and stare at the picture of this county and visualize waking up to snow on Christmas morning." And so she gets all into it. She's like sitting there like really focusing on it. And then, okay, it's done. I'm like, I bet it is, and I left the machine and the helmet turned on, and like, sure enough, we woke up to like 4 inches of snow Christmas morning. I've lived in this area for 30-something years. We've never got snow on Christmas. Like, I actually Googled it. Like, the last time it snowed here on Christmas was like back in the 1850s. So,
holy shit.
For some reason, weather manipulation is the easiest thing for me to do with a radionics machine. Now, I like to cause tornadoes and hurricanes and blow up volcanoes. But you can make it snow, or you can make it not rain too, which I'm actually thinking about doing that because it's the rainy season and I'm getting pretty backed up on ritual work because I do all my rites outside. It's time to cause a drought. So I'm going to probably do that next.
That's what they would train the different military groups with the different projects they would do for remote viewing and such like that. Is that they would train them to do cloud bursting, and so I started teaching my daughter to do this. Just look at the sky, find the cloud you don't want, and then imagine the sky without that cloud. You can't actually imagine that cloud disappearing. You have to erase that cloud from your existence. And then she can do it right now just with her friends. She'll look at that cloud, just while they're looking, it'll just disappear. But there is something, JS, that you kind of hit on there, that even a child can do this. And I think that we put so much barriers on ourselves as we get older, that having that childlike belief of like, it can snow on Christmas. We can use magic to make it snow on Christmas. Yeah. To get back to that with all of my magic, that's the core of it, is like that belief of just like, almost you get excited for it, even though everybody else would say it's impossible. You already feel yourself getting excited for it, you know?
It gets rid of a limit, like any limitations on what you can and cannot do, you know? And yeah, some things, like I've had a Raphael experiment backfire on me where I put healing ointments all together on my name on a Raphael sigil and put my blood on it. And then I supercharged it with the sun inside the bottle. And I had to call in to my job multiple days in a row because I couldn't breathe. I couldn't sleep. But it ended up healing me, giving me wellness within my life and my system. So basically, you know, I was able to then have a better flow of function for my life or whatever. But, you know, there are certain drawbacks that you could potentially do that, you know, like you put yourself on the wrong input, or, you know, like I had last night during the ritual, I had Lugal Beaterbur's energy just flow into me as a part of just me being an empty vessel. And I did that and I kept it on. And even after the ritual, like a couple hours later, I was like, I had to go out on a big old walk outside, like, I don't even know what time it was. It was like 2 a.m, and I was like, "What is going on?" Like, I'm not this, and like I had to go back.
That's the biggest mistake. I never make the mistake of putting shit on the wrong plates. You know, the input and output. I've got that figured out. The mistake I make is leaving the machine running, forgetting it's running, going about my day. I'm driving through town running errands, and I'm like, "What's going on here?" Well, I can feel this, but like energy just around me, and I'm like, "What the fuck is it?" Oh yeah. Overcook some things sometimes. I don't know if that actually, and maybe you guys can tell me, will that actually have a negative effect on the outcome at all?
I would say if the intent is to help you, it'll probably, it's kind of like maybe like standing out the sun, you know, going out in the sun to get a tan, and you may have stayed out a little bit too longer, you got a little bit of a sunburn. You know, I think it's a good way of giving you an analogy. How about that?
That's
my favorite experiment with radionics on myself is through vampirism. You know, I'll take like a picture of a tiger, so I'll go to the zoo and take Polaroids and animals and put it on the.
Hello?
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay.
Hang on.
Oh, brother.
Like I'll be at work or something, and it's like, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, oh yeah, shit. Hey, Rourke, man, I need you to go turn that box in my room on. I left it on. You know, but it's you can overcook yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It keeps me up for hours if I don't turn it off. I mean, which Genesis box.
I will feel it crazy in my temple right here. I got the box right behind me, and so if I leave it running, I'll forget about it. Especially if it's for something that's not for me, if I'm directing something to somebody else or whatever, that I'll come back in here, and it's thick. It's like you're walking through a wall of energy. For some reason, too, that energy always, to me, it feels like a heartbeat. It's got like this boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Well, I tell you, I got a little helpful hint for you. Just a little, we'll just call it a Mulder's tip of the day. Whenever you're setting up an operation, like an energy operation for somebody, and I'm sure you guys are really good with pendulums and that kind of stuff. And so basically what you would do is, okay, you want to figure out how long do I need to leave this thing on for this particular operation, right? You go, okay, is it 1 day? You're getting a yes. Is it 2 days? Okay, you get a yes. 3 days. Okay, you get a no. All right, now you're gonna go, okay, it's 2 days. How many hours? Is it 1 hour? No. 2 hours? No. 3 hours? No. Okay, 4 hours, you get a yes. So by using a pendulum, it'll be able to help you get a time frame as to how long to keep an operation rolling. Okay, and once you just set up a timer or what have you, for the time that you need to go ahead and shut that operation. And that's I've done that many times on a lot of different things, like for clients, that kind of stuff, where you really kind of, like you said, you don't want to overdo it, too much of a good thing. And so I'm just saying that's an easy way of calculating time levels as to how long to keep an operation going with radionics, and it's just real simple to do.
Well, now you're making me think about something else. All right, so when you're using a pendulum or a Ouija board or anything like that, that's using ideometer effects. So your body's creating these little twitches and all this, right? So what that's making me think is the exact same thing that happens when you turn a dial. So what if you take a dial and a potentiometer or something and put it in the center of a wheel of letters or numbers, and then just sit and spin it and see where it stops and write down each letter. You're gonna be able to use that as a communication device right there, or numbers to see the numbers. Just by using the same, you use a stick pad, or you can just turn the dial until you feel it stop, and that could be fun. That could be a fun little divination tool.
Oh yeah, I think Charles Casamano had a similar device instead of when it was had a machine like that, where basically, like you said, it was like a dial, and instead of having numbers, there were letters and numbers. Okay, and he was able to as he would turn the dial with one hand, and the other hand he would stroke the stick plate. Once he got a stick, okay, all right, stops at that letter or that number or whatever it is, write it down. Next, keep on doing it, and is able to. According to Chuck, he was able to get messages. It's like basically a scrying device. And okay, all right. Let's see. But another thing too, if you don't, people who, hey, I'm not really good at pendulum, but I'm really good at getting a stick. You can also do the same thing. You can say, you can stroke the stick plates at 1 day, 2 days, you get a stick, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to necessarily use a pendulum, because as far as I'm concerned, getting a stick is like it's like you're out there, trying to, douse for water. It's like using a divining rod or what have you. It's just a form of dousing. And that's all it is. So, and that's the way I look at it there.
Do you feel differently about the pendulum? Do you feel like the pendulum is a bit more spirit guided?
I really I don't know. I think it, like you said, I think it kind of works off of your subconscious, and you're providing twitches and that kind of thing to make the pendulum move. Or you could be tapped into another spiritual entity who's causing a subconscious reaction to make the pendulum move.
I know I've seen stuff, and I'm sure you guys have too, where it's like most of the time it's doing what you're saying, but then sometimes you can see the goddamn thing get pushed. You can see an actual push the pendulum or push objects that you're like, oh, I see what's going on here. So sometimes you can actually see the spiritual hand actually involved.
And so with the Genesis 2.0, and I wanted to ask you, JS, about your experiments you've been able to test out with it. But I've been able, plus I have the encompassing helmet too, which also is really badass to do remote viewing. There's just something about that helmet and dialing in that frequency. I mean, even without plugging it into anything, it puts you in a state. But I do find the communication for like how many days and such when I'm working with the spirit, when I plug the little extra extension, that plate down, and then put this the spirit that I'm trying to communicate with, and I do my communication, and then after I'm done doing my communication, then I put it up there and I dial in all the frequencies for whatever working we decided upon. But yeah, I definitely will say divination's really smart. It's something I definitely need to start incorporating within my radionics, because I've had some things on, and recently I follow my intuition, like, oh, it's that ding, like, oh, jackass, it's time to, you were supposed to stop that a while back, but, following that intuition. But yeah, JS, I wanted to know about anything you were able to check out with that Genesis 2.0.
All right, so cool. Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that. What I've been doing is, first of all, I want to say, like, this is my favorite box that you built for me so far, Doc. Like, it's Like, it's fucking badass. All right.
Well, hey, I built it for you there, brother.
So I've used this for 2 separate experiments. One was for channeling, and one was for saturating myself with the energy of a deity to the point of possession. All right. So what I'll do is I'll take the sigil. I'll trace over the sigil. I'll sit there and I'll charge the sigil. I'll actually put it on the box and then charge it. And then I'll usually offer, just because this is what I like to do, I'll offer a drop of blood and trace over the sigil. After I've done that, I'll tune the dials for the frequency of the sigil. Then I will plug my radionic helmet into the output. And then I will use the same stick plate to tune the dials on my radionic helmet. And I will sit there and speak the in. I'll sit there in my universal circle. I'll speak the in for the demon. I'll speak the conjuration for the demon or the angel or whatever I'm trying to communicate with. And then I will just simply clear my mind after I speak that in 3 times and just let the energy and the information flow through. All right, it's coming right through the top of my crown chakra, that metal, that tinfoil plate on the fucking helmet, and I can literally feel like jolts of electricity coming through the top of my head and actually get clear, concise messages. All right. So, and I can sit there and ask questions and get answers. All right. It's nothing that us magicians can't do without a radionics box. But if you're not somebody that's been practicing magic for 20 years, like any random person that wants to communicate with, say, Belial, can put the sigil of Belial on that radionics machine, tune the dials, tune the helmet, sit there, speak his in, speak his conjuration, and communicate with Belial. All right. The other thing that I've been doing with it is not doing the exact same thing, putting the sigil on the input, plugging my helmet in, and sitting there. And after I charge and open the sigil, just calling the spirit's energy into me. All right, I'm trying to fill and saturate my body with Belial's energy. Like, say I'm getting ready to film a video course or do like a radio show or something where I want to put on a good presentation. Or maybe I'm going out and I want all the bitches to fucking be magnetized to me. I'm going to saturate my energy with Belial. And man, like, the box just makes it so much easier and so much more intense, man. Like, so those are the 2 main experiments I've done with this so far. And I've also used it just like a regular radionics machine, like without the helmet, without using it for evocation, just, put, like say I want to juice somebody up with some energy, I'll put a picture of a bodybuilder or somebody that's in really good shape on there with their picture. I won't tell them what I'm doing because I don't want to fucking have a placebo effect being a part. I'll just put them on there. I'll call him and be like, "Hey, Dad, how you feeling today?" He's like, "Man, I feel like really good today." It's like, all right, cool. This fucking box works, man. That's what I've done with it so far.
Hell yeah.
One thing I want to pitch in here, JS, you were saying, this is stuff that we as trained magicians can do anyways. Well, let me tell you a little thing. All right, so about a year and a half ago, I noticed I was having quite a bit of a breakdown psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. And a good deal of it was because I was doing 2-3 rituals a day for people that were hiring me for rituals. And I was like, I'm burning myself out. And actually Radionics came to be a solution because I was like, I understood. I was squeezing myself to get all of the energy out of myself to use for these rituals. Even when you're communicating, you've got to squeeze yourself really hard and to get this to happen. Then with Radionics, as soon as I started implementing that, it's not drawing on my energy. It just needs my energy to get it going, and then I can disconnect. So it literally, I'm not going to go as far as saying it saved my life, but it definitely has helped me become a lot more healthy because I'm not exhausting my own energy for all these rituals. So yeah, this is one of the cool little like shortcuts that Radionics does. Is like, yeah, you could do this yourself, but you don't have to.
And just like putting Santolak on the output and the input, some asshole, someone just piece of shit. I've seen in my own life more deals, one could say, more income coming in from different angles, more avenues just opening with Santolak and doing it's done, That's his box. Just have the box. And then I've also opened one with Duchess Bune. That's what I've done. My most recent one, the Genesis 2.0, and it's just flooding. It just floods because I don't know if you picked up on this or not, but I still get when I'm projecting into that box since he has 2 different amplifiers, or I'm not sure what they are that you have in there, But it's like not only am I projecting my intent, but then that spirit that working with that spirit's intent. It's just like you double up everything, and it's right for that climax, literally, and then you flip the switch. I mean, there was one working I did where right when I released, I had turned on the freaking Radionics box, and I thought, like, that's an echo of hardcore energy, man, like, for real. But I know I went a little bit too far. But, you know, like, at the end of the day, it does come down to, like, getting results. And my magic before Radionics, I felt it was good, but I would limit myself. But definitely having, like, you flipping the switch, you know, unless you're doing a right you would do, JS, you can still get that magnitude of power. It's not going to be instantaneous, you know. And I've realized a lot of that with a few things recently. Like, I can't just do this, that, and the other unless maybe I have more machines or certain things set up, or, you know, do a working that's going to take 2 months to get the result instead of hoping to get it in 2 weeks. And that is also one thing I've learned with this process too, you know. And just like if you're trying to win something or get something, it might have to change you. And that's what's beautiful too, is whether it's with an entity or just the box itself. I find when you are going after different goals and different objectives, sometimes it does take me changing as a person, and then finally that comes. And I know that that's how it is working with spirits, but I've tested it out in my box and had the same thing happen. So I know you've mentioned before, Dr. Mulder, it's like it has its own consciousness to it, because it is crystals that are, you know, trillions of years old. So I definitely feel that that's true.
Yeah, well, I've noticed they seem to develop personalities. Let's put it that way. They seem to have, like, you know, whatever that energy field is. You know, we've all had machines, you know, like a favorite car or whatever. It just had like its own personality. Like, for a machine, it was, for all intents and purposes, it was alive. Okay, I'm sure, you know, we're all guys. We all love our cars, right? So I know this happened, and so yeah, I've noticed that too. But yeah, the thing I wanted to ask, you know, like I said, yeah, they do develop personalities. And by the way, the older these machines get, the stronger they become. I mean, the more,
Wow.
I'm just, yeah. Well,
so there's a story, just really quick to jump in there.
Go ahead, please.
There's a story called Frabado the Magician that was kind of about this. It was who wrote that? That was Franz Barton, I think. And so Frabado the Magician was kind of a fictional tale about good and evil that are playing out, but it surrounds the tepaphone, this device that specifically that it had been used for so much evil that the device itself had become evil. But you know, with the good and evil aside, though, there is something where it is, you know, we can think about the way that AI duplicates itself and how fast that works. We're seeing a similar thing with how fast the consciousness of these boxes seems to develop, because it is, and especially when, just like anything, you know, when you start talking to the spirits, they start understanding you're talking to them and becoming more active. So when I started getting my box, when I started getting it dialed in to the point it could do stuff, a lot of the times after that, once I realized, like, there's something actually here to work out, I'll find myself just sitting there, just playing with the dials like I'm having a conversation with it. Just, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I don't know what you're telling me, but all right, I'll listen to you, baby.
Yeah. That's kind of funny you said that, EA, because I'll give you an example. I had I set up I had all these machines all over my laboratory. Okay, there wasn't a flat space here that didn't have a machine on it, and I had to make room. And so what I did, I decided I would just put everything on a wall. I used Velcro and what have you, and a few screws. And I put everything on a wall and created a giant array of machines. I think it was almost like 87 machines or something like that. There's some odd number like that, and they're all connected. And anyway, you know, I was cleaning up the room, you know, getting everything's kind of tidied up here after you know, cleaning up putting everything on that wall, and I started hearing this high pitched hum, and I was thinking, oh, maybe it's the fan on my computer. Turn off my computer, still hearing this hum. thinking maybe it's a light, because every time, every once in a while, the filament in a light bulb might, start to vibrate. You might hear a hum off of it. Turn off all the lights. Still hearing this hum. And I finally figured out where it was coming from. It was that wall. It was like a chorus. And there's no way in hell that these machines could have gotten off any kind of audio frequency. It's just like you could hear it. It was like a high-pitched hum. And I guess by the fact of putting these machines in such close proximity of each other, the energy just kind of like, interchanged and what have you, and maybe created something where I could actually hear it. It was audible. It took about 2 days before I got used to it, and it just, either went away or I just got used to it or what have you.
I got a bunch of guitars hanging on my wall over here, and I'll bust them out and just kind of play with one at a time, and I'll notice I'll hit certain notes that the other guitars will start making sound. I can hear the strings, specifically of my acoustic guitar, across the room.
Right.
So I'm thinking of that because that might be what's happening with these devices when you start getting them to close proximity, especially when you start tethering them together. That they do start to buzz and hum in this unison. That they start to. It's like wireless. The wireless routers start to link up.
Yeah, exactly. And just the fact that I was actually, I was able to notice this, or either it was coming, from my ears or inside of my mind. I can't tell. I couldn't tell which. But I'm just saying, it was there. And so, I just find it really interesting. Another thing too, I don't know if I'm really backtracking, but I want to ask all you guys a collective question here. And I've heard this from several other magicians. I just want to get your opinions on this. They told me that when they're dealing with any kind of an entity, spiritual entity, that this spiritual entity prefers to deal with radionics than to deal directly with a human being, because they find it cleaner, they find it less, it's just being honest. They look at us as a little bit gross because we're animals to them. We smell to them. We eat. We go to the bathroom. That kind of a thing. And so to them, we're kind of like impure. But with radionics, it's sort of like a firewall between us and them. And they prefer that firewall because it's just so clean and so direct. And they don't. It's like you're sending them an email instead of having a conversation with them. And they're talking to you and they think you have bad breath. And so. And that's why I wonder, are you guys starting to pick up on that yourselves, or is this just a localized case?
Yeah, I think from some of them, I'd say for a lot of spirits that might be the case, and I don't know that I've found any spirit so far that won't work with radionics, because there are a lot of times I'll grab a sigil and I'll go to use it for something, put it on a specific altar, and they'll tell me not on that altar. No, I can get a really clear signal. I've never gotten that with radionics. I've never had one of them say, no, not me.
Okay.
But one thing I'm thinking is a lot of the spirits that I'll work with, Zazel and the gatekeepers, that they seem like their biggest investment in us is the fact that we can evolve, and as we evolve, we help them evolve. Now, they might be eyeballing this technology with the same eye, saying, "Wow, this shit can evolve." That's one of the big things, and that's actually one of the things I was hoping maybe we could flesh out a little bit in this conversation. Is there's a wave that's pushing all of us forward in learning all of this. Where is this going? Where is this evolving towards? Because one of the things I'm seeing, we're all creating these different devices and whatever, and we can tether them together. I've got your guys' devices and plug them into mine and whatever. Mm-hmm. It seems like a bunch of people are creating devices that we should all be tethering together to create one giant portal or something.
You walked into that, and what I'm looking for, and that's I'm great. Is that I just find this, good luck. I just find it. I feel blessed to have you guys around here because I'm looking. The Genesis 2.0 is just, I think, where I was trying to go with this. What I wanted to do was create a box that was basically universal, where any magician can use it for any kind of entities that they may want to work with, or hell, they can just use it as basically a wish machine. They don't even have to involve magic in it. They just use it, as a standard wishing machine. But I wanted to make something that was universal and it had a lot of utility to it, where you guys have enough flexibility where you guys can do whatever you wanted to. Just basically your own limitation is your imagination. And I'm always looking for bigger and better ideas when it comes to this stuff. And and I've been working with JS for a couple of years now, and he's given me a lot of great ideas. I kind of what they did was, the ideas they had, they would lead to other, better ideas, and because of that, we were able to create, incorporating some of Charles Casamano's work, incorporating that in some of these machines, we're able to create things that are customized for magicians. And I tell you, EA, the reason why I think radionics is so beneficial to magicians is, number one, it's easy to do. It's really easy to do. Number two, it saves you a hell of a lot of time. And well, I tell you, there's a number three here. Like what you said, you get drained. You're doing all these things with these guys. You're getting constantly drained. Well, hell, you could be tuning machines all day long, EA, and you won't expend the energy that you would just for one, just doing one ritual or one ceremony, what have you. Just by tuning a few knobs. And I just look at that. It is, I don't know.
Well, and then to break it real quick, and then also,
go ahead.
I've learned quite a bit about defense, psychic defense from people attacking you, and and that's one of the things. If you've got a box, because that was one of the things I was doing at first, was I was trying to catch all of that shit myself, and that's exhausting, and you can't do that, and it starts getting through. But if you set at least one box, I like to have actually three. I've got 3 devices that I've got set around the house for just to collect any negative energy, any curse energy, anything anybody's throwing at me goes straight to those boxes. And then you've got a passive thing there. I go just at, maybe once a week, I'll just walk around the house and adjust the dials, and it's all good. But without that, it is night and day. If you're using your own energy to try to do all of this stuff, especially for anybody that's attacking magic the way that we are, this is a lot of energy we're putting out.
Yeah, the hunter killer, 100%. Once I finally got mine together and turned it all on, I did feel a significant difference. It wasn't like the most grand changing, oh my gosh, but like I did feel this little sign of relief, and it's nice to have just like a sun as the input, or just something that's nonstop energy. And then whoever for defense, I'll just say mine. I don't give a shit. Lugal be the burr. He's the man. And then, my attack is a war machine, because it's like, if you're going to attack me, I don't just want to negate it. I kind of want you to get a whiplash so you don't fucking do it again, because I'm not trying to start anything. I just want to have, all my stuff together. But you do feel a difference. And when it comes to the energy, from what you're saying earlier, one of the great things you're talking about, JS, when you took the snapshot of your county, just putting that over the chicken places over in China, getting a snapshot of their facilities where they kill everything, and that blood's just being thrown for nothing. Having that as the input, and then anything else on the output. I mean, I don't put myself there. I thought about that last night, and I was like, that's probably not going to be too good. But, an entity can filter that out. And I've seen just very quick, even faster than when I use the sun, or even an individual, or whatever it may be. So I do think that there's definitely something to do with blood when it comes to the input that adds something else to it. But, the sun works just as well, or whatever it may be. But yeah.
Yeah. Hey, JS, I know you've used the Hunter Killer system. What have been your experiences with it?
Oh, it's the difference between night and day, man. I used to do like at least 2 reversals every week just to like get rid of all the shit that was being flung at me. So I've actually now instead I've got 2 separate hunter killer systems set up in my house. A total of 6 machines with 6 different entities that are it's an adaptive defense system that constantly adapts to the threat coming in, to where I don't even notice it at the point. It's if you're a magician, the second that you come out of the closet, out of the temple, and start talking about black magic on YouTube or something like that, you can have a bunch of assholes that want to try you just to see if they can try you, and that shit gets old. I mean, of course we were handling it by ourselves, but it was exhausting. So now that we've got the Radionics, the hunter killer system set up in place, we don't have to worry about that anymore.
What's really crazy, one really crazy thing to notice about that, yeah, people will fling some shit at you from time to time. However, as soon as you start having problems, as soon as your life starts taking a dip, that's when the curses really come. That's when people are like, oh, he's down, let's get him. And it is like sharks. It is crazy. And so that's actually when I started picking up radionics and really hardcore, because I had that exact moment. Everything was coming, the whole world was collapsing down on me, and everyone that wanted to throw a curse, they were letting loose. And at that point, I had to start going, well, I can't do all this myself. And Redoing Radionics has definitely been a huge part of for me. Instead of sending the energy back at anybody, I've got a couple wards that I use around the house for that, but like traditional witchcraft wards. But for radionics, I just convert it. I actually have Saturnian seals that I've actually put the Saturn seals on the output, so it'll take the energy that's being brought to me on the input, traveling through the device, and then outputting it into a Saturn seal to convert that energy back to the leaden state. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, you can set it up to feed off of it, and like what you were talking about earlier, I call it ritual fatigue. And yeah, like you do 130 something deification rites per year, like you were exhausted all the fucking time. You know, I got to where like if I had a night off, like all I want to do is sleep, man. It's like I didn't have time to do a ritual for myself. I was doing the deification rite for myself every month just to like replenish my energy that I was putting into that. And so now I use like the vampire boxes and things like that to like feed energy into me while I'm doing these crazy sacrificial rites. And it doesn't exhaust me the way that it used to. So I mean, it's really helped me maintain the level that I've been practicing at for several years now. And without radionics, man, I don't think I could have fucking done it this long. I really don't.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I find that even when I'm about to go do a workout and I'll put Satanchi on the input and then me on the output, and just having his energy come on through me, I've just 15% more reps, more weights, going and doing my runs, pushing that much more, and having that overtoned body over me where it's like I feel like I'm actually 9 feet tall, and like, you know, I have his appearance and all that, but like it's definitely something to help you also break those boundaries even on the physical level. And that's something that I've been really pushing more to learn how to kind of take that to the next level possible, because something I'm seeing with radionics, if they try to destroy it, you know, we already know our system itself, you know, is the tyrants they are from religion and the politics, you know, trying to be mind slaves. The reason why I love radionics so much is I find it to be one of the keys of the way for us, of humanity, to get ourselves out of the shit that we're in, you know? If
well,
everyone...
Sorry, just to,
go ahead.
I'm such an interrupter, dude. I'm so sorry.
No,
but,
it's totally good. It's really good.
But so here's the thing. Like when you look at when radionics first started really breaking through with, I think it was Reich that really started bringing some of the devices out, and these really started gaining traction. A lot of the early uses for them was cancer treatment and different illness treatments, and that got shut down by the medical community fucking fast. And so that is, but here's the thing, it was super effective, and that was the problem. And so that, I think that there is, I don't know, Dr. Mulder, have you ever had any issues with authorities with all this?
That's one thing I will not touch, is any kind of medical or health relation issues. You can say well-being to help with your well-being, but if you're trying to say this is like this is actual medical device or whatever, yeah, you're setting yourself up to go to federal prison. And and I whenever clients will come to me and they'll say, hey, I got a certain health issue or what have you, I need some help on this, I tell them, I'm sorry, but due to the laws of this country, I cannot help you. But if you will Google radionics and health, you'll find a ton of information and do your own research. But, you know, like I said, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. It's just that, or, you know, insensitive or what have you. It's just that I'm just, you know, I can't get involved in that part of it, because that's where a lot of these people, that was their downfall. The guy that actually invented radionics, his name was Abrams, and he was a neurologist out of San Francisco. He's like one of the top MDs or the top doctors in the country. And when he started creating or getting involved in radionics and seeing its, you know, its well-being benefits, that's when he got into problems. And so we're talking about the father of all this stuff. And so that's just for me personally. I will not touch it. But it's not, again, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. It's just the way things are. And you have to really kind of walk on eggshells when you're dealing with any kind of well-being issues. And so that's just me. I don't need the hassle, but this way, people can do their own stuff. And another thing too, is a little something I want to throw to everybody. I am a firm believer that if you don't watch yourself, you can get some kind of energetic blowback. If you're trying to help somebody with a problem, okay, they may have a disease or whatever, and you're trying to help with them, help it. That energy could possibly it could probably interfere with your energy field, and you start taking on the symptoms of that disease. Okay, a lot of people they've noticed, especially radionics, operators, they age real fast because of the stuff they do. Go ahead.
You want me to tell you why, Doc?
Go ahead.
At least I think why, because when the fact that this stick plate is also the output plate, and they're not cleaning that fucking shit off with alcohol, and they're leaving their finger
DNA
on it.
Right.
Yeah, a fingerprint is just like a picture, or hair, or anything else. So if I'm doing a healing rite or a baneful rite, and I tune this dial using this stick plate, and then I put the picture of my target right there, I take an alcohol pad and.
Oh no! It froze.
He froze on us.
It froze because this is a genius.
He wipes it with the alcohol pad. Everybody, get your fingerprints off.
It froze for a second. So if you go, you wipe that off after every single operation.
Yeah. No, you need to wipe it off every time you tune the dials. All right. Yeah. So like with this particular machine, let's say I'm doing a baneful rite. Let's say I've got a picture of an asshole and like a vial of goofer dust sitting on here. All right. Yeah. And then I come over here, I use the stick plate to tune all these dials. I'll just put my fucking DNA on the output. All right. So then I take the picture of the asshole and put him over here. Yeah, I've got his picture, but I got my DNA on there too. Mm-hmm. It's feeding that shit into me. So after I tune the dials using the stick plate, I dump alcohol on a paper towel and I scrub the output plate to get my DNA, my sweat, my skin particles, my fingerprints off of there before I and turn the machine on. All right. Like you can fuck yourself up just by cross-contamination.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, hey, it's something you never think about, but it's there. I mean,
that is true. There's actually
I figured out through trial and error. I fucked myself up a dozen times.
I had something similar with I've got a little DNA trap that I got along with that I can plug into my machine. So it's just a little box trap that I can put my hair into. So I put my hair into it and was doing some, and I forgot all about that. I set that to the side, did some other workings on that, and started feeling really confused. That's the energy I was feeling. I was like, what the fuck's going on with me? And then I went and checked my device. I'm like, no, I've turned it all off. All right, it's all good. Then I noticed that. I'm like, oh yeah, you leave any part of yourself behind on that machine, you're gonna have some problems.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's something when it comes down to putting my blood on the input, I had hesitations because of that. And I've also had hesitations like to where I have to put aluminum foil over the copper because I know it still will technically transcend and everything else work with it, but because one of my plates is roasted because I kept putting on ecstasy oil, the black web oil. I just kept putting stuff on there and every couple days and wanting to soak that all in. But wow, I'm gonna probably do a clean on my machines tonight, actually. Yeah. So thank you, man. For real.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. All right. So it's like with the chicken feet curse. Like EA, you taught us all that chicken feet curse. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most effective curses out there for stopping an enemy from fucking with you. Right. And so I did that a couple of times with my bare hands. All right. Sitting there My hands are sweaty. I'm binding the chicken feet to this photograph, you know, and like I'm putting my DNA, my skin, my sweat all over that. I go bury that shit. A few days later, my legs start hurting. I start having anxiety, blah, 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 blah. You know, I was like, man, I'm like, okay. So I go Voco Fall. I'm like, hey, what's going on with me? He's like, well, you fucking put your DNA on the finish link, dumbass. And so I had to go dig that shit up, burn it, and then redo the curse with gloves on. Okay, so you got to wear rubber gloves when you do sympathetic curses, especially something that's like really nasty like that. And whenever you're doing it, whether it's a healing, right, like you were saying, getting some backlash, any type of operation that I do for another person that's not me with one of these boxes, I am like alcohol scrubbing that output plate that is the stick plate before I turn the machine on and leave it running. Like this is something everybody should know. My own experience.
Smart move. Yeah, I agree.
I have like really jacked myself up a few times.
Well, that's I've with the War Machine, I have used Andros on the input, and then, you know, whatever whether it's a situation, whatever it may be, for the output. And now that I'm looking back, I definitely made things a little bit more chaotic, I noticed, but I thought that was just because, you know, like you said, it's like a pulsation from the device. It's a sonar always beaming up, so that energy's always there. But if it's not connected, then I wouldn't be feeling it. But if I felt it, then that's just a part of it. Damn. Thank you.
One of the things, the reason I interrupted you about the whole cancer thing, and that this was originally, you know, well, that's what got this all in trouble. If we want to make the imaginary stretch that these devices can actually cure cancer, which some people say they can, what else could it do? Like, because you were talking about, like, you know, you're taking this to more physical manifestation and what you're doing with your workout and stuff, and that's kind of what excites me with this is like, what else could we really do? How far could you really push things? You know, because if you can heal yourself, you could do some other pretty crazy shit in this world.
Well, it was like that ritual I did. I use the master key as the astral matrix for the collection of the energy. And it's almost like a hack on what you would get with the vampiric current, where you'd have to have an undead god or whatever. But, you know, working with Lugal Beta Burr, I guess that in a sense was the undead god, well, whatever the case. But building that energy and collecting, you know, from the black sun, regular sun, chicken farm, different pinnacles and stuff, to just keep building up within this fire. And then to collect all that, and then the night of, you know, release that into the world. You know, I mean, I felt a liquid blue energy. I'll speak more about that later, but just a pulsation of that energy and something that you can collect on that. So I just feel like we're going to be able to, if we had 5 different people collecting energy for one ritual and everyone was doing their own type of form, I feel like you could do bigger rituals that way. I feel like, let's say we need to find a way for vehicles to be run on water, only this time not kill the person that's about the, you know, has a patent and everything else. But, you know, building that energy intention of finding out these different ways about creating new means in which humanity can live and survive, you know? It's how Uncle Chuckie, you know, found out how to make the helmet. Andros was giving him the downloads. So I just find this to be so limitless, because unless the aliens are actually the demons or whatever else, and they're walking here in that physical form with that technology, well, let's tap into that technology that's already existent now. And I feel like we could really change everything. And that's why I have such a passion to talking about it, experimenting, and just testing things in the physical body too, because I find it so damning, all the bullshit propaganda. As soon as you're born, you're already a piece of shit and you're a limited being, versus, you know, having that godlike consciousness within us, activating that, and then how to push our body to be able to do more. There's people over in Africa who can run for 3 days straight, not stopping, and then eat one animal for the tribe, and then drink dirty water, and they're totally cool to keep going. How do we change our genetic structure? You know, it's like when you work with King Belial, he said you'd change your DNA. Well, with that, as well as Radionics being its own entity, I'm just finding this is a part of our evolution and ascension, and so we just all have to come together, or at least the certain people come together and help push those things out into the world.
What's really crazy to me, like one just little, to me, it blows my mind. Maybe it's not going to be so mind-blowing for everybody else, but the machine itself just sits there and it's just a box. I mean, I can do all kinds of cool tricks to generate power, but there's this really cool spark that happens when man meets machine. And Dr. Mulder, you were talking about cars earlier. I had a 1965 Chevy Bel Air, and when I sat in that, and when I hit that gas, it was man and machine, and that was magic. That was true love. And that's something I'll feel with Radionics too. I sit at it and it just flows. It works. It's beautiful. It's and there is that, like you said, Al. It's just like this. It's like a spark that just lights off when you do that. But I've seen. So I'm just gonna make a little business pitch here. One of the things I'd love to do for a release for 2024 is a Radionics spell book that all of us together here write whatever manuals we can, whatever instructions we can in a spell book. Do a video course along with that. See about doing some boxes, a limited amount of boxes that we would sell to people. And then what I'd love to do is to do a group ritual where everybody, after they get their boxes, that we do some sort of group ritual that everybody get your boxes out, and it'll be either a live chat or through video that we'll prepare beforehand. And actually, you know, we'll set our devices and have everybody else actually do it along with us, so they'll actually be able to because it's what I'm seeing there, and this goes along with what Elle's talking about, that I actually see these things as energy portals. When you fire it up, I actually see it's creating a toroidal energy portal. Correct. And so if we have 5 of those, or 10 of those, or 20 of those, that we all dial in at the same time to the same frequencies, we're opening one big fucking portal. And that's where I think we start unlocking the next level of this, because it is, I mean, awesome stuff's coming of like experimenting with single devices, but tethering through long distance our devices through kind of group rituals. I think that's the next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's how I met JS, was through a group ritual. He was doing, he had a bunch of viewers of this show on the internet, and that's how I met JS. And he said, well, first thing, I made a few substitutions. So put a drop of blood on a sigil. And I said, hey JS, I'm not really comfortable with that. What about if I put like a human trafficker on here? And it was it Shintalok? I think that's who you were using. Shintalok. Okay, there we go. And so I went ahead and used a human trafficker for that thing. And again, because of that group ritual, I developed a relationship with JS. And now, because of JS, my relationship with JS, I'm talking to you, EA. I'm talking to you, L. And you see how this thing's progressing? I mean, how we're kind of like spreading it out.
EA is the man that discovered Shintalok.
Yeah. By the way, EA, could you tell us? I know we're switching gears here. How did you get into radionics? I already know. I want to hear from your.
Well, all right. So when I was about 16, the internet, this was what, 1996-ish. The internet was starting to get into the schools, so I could go at lunchtime and go get on the internet, and it was all dial up and everything, but it was awesome.
Okay.
Life changing. And so I get on the internet and I start looking right away, black magic and Satanism, and I come across this website, blackmagic.com. It's still up, and it's run by Carl Hans Wells, and so when I start looking at his stuff, he's got all this black magic, and then I start clicking all the links, and I start seeing radionics boxes and orgone devices, and all the stuff that he puts out there. On a side note, I think his devices are he puts a little much into it. He puts a little more than needs to be. It's whatever. But I start seeing that, and I went, okay, that's interesting. Then I didn't really do anything with it. I saw it again a few years later. Didn't do anything with it. And this is how a lot of the things that really seem that tend in the end to be really important to me, they keep looping around. They keep looping until I pay attention. So the last loop, really honestly, that really lit me on fire was when JS started going on to town with it. That's when I started looking at it. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be super honest with you. I thought it was bullshit until JS actually started proving that it wasn't. I was like, this is just like people putting crystals in their windows, and there's so much more that goes into magic. And then JS just starts lighting it up and going, no, bro, you got to look at this. And and so it was really through that example that I was like, all right, well, let me actually, if it's. All right, so JS is a walking bullshit detector. I don't know if you know this about him. Yeah. So I can pull some smooth talk on people, not on JS. He'll be like, bro, what are you doing? Come on. And so for him to look at this and go, no, there's something here. I was like, wait, if the walking bullshit detector doesn't detect bullshit, something must be going on here. So that's when I actually started looking at it with any seriousness. Like I said, it had looped and it had looped and it had looped, but I firmly believe that when you're not ready for an idea, you're just not ready for it. But when you are, it'll be right there for you. And so, yeah.
I tell you, that's absolutely correct. And and getting back to what you were talking about earlier about contributing to a book, a manual to help radionics operators building a machine, especially for magicians. I think we've already got a lot of the groundwork done here. And I'm thinking, okay, we'll get all four of our heads together here and create the ultimate magic radionics machine, magic/radionics. Create that thing and make it for the average magician. Because what radionics and magic, they both have one thing in common for sure, and that is to give people their power back, to make things happen that normally would not happen. And that's what these things are doing. As far as I'm concerned, magic is the other side of the coin of radionics. I think they're both. The way they work is almost identical. It's just in different ways. They're both traveling to the same destination, but they're traveling on different highways. If you just put it that way.
They're two separate sciences that come together and work together.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic stuff. But hey, do you guys want to take like a 5-minute break and then continue, or what do you guys?
I've actually got to jump off with you guys and go get dinner started for the kids, unfortunately. Okay. But yeah,
we're working to do tonight, so I'm gonna have to go set up for that. So I mean, yeah.
Okay. Awesome chatting to you, but let's keep doing these though. I think this is fun. I don't know, I don't know if people.
I'm absolutely down. If you all are, I mean, we did once a month or something like that. So it's we can have some crazy, our stories and all that. And I love this. I want this knowledge out, and you guys are the freaking knowledge guys, and I'm bringing everything I got too. Let's fucking do it.
You brought some serious breakthroughs to us, also, El. Like, I just got the newest elixir you sent me in the mail like 2 days ago. Like, you've got to lace me up on how to use it. But when I opened it up out of the package and I got it, I was just like, bzzz, on my hand. I was like, oh man, he really put some fucking power into this. Like, I don't know what to do with it yet, though. I got to ask him. So you're gonna we're gonna have to talk off air, and you have to how to use that.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. And the cool part is that not only with my intention, but with Radionics was able to create that instead of doing something else. And it's just another thing. That energy can be funneled and placed, man. It's fucking badass. Thank you. I'll definitely let you know about that too. Hell yeah.
Okay.
Another thing, this guy El, he did a what'd you call it? The astral armor ritual.
Yeah, the black web armor. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you did that for me the other day. Like, you told me, I don't know, it was like 2 days before you did it. You told me you were getting ready to do it for me. And I wasn't thinking about it. I was like going about my day. I was working and whatnot. I was like, man, I feel really fucking strong and energized today. I feel like I'm, I'm walking with a pep in my step that I don't normally have. I just had a lot of physical energy. It felt really strong, felt really healthy. And then on the second day, you wrote me, he was like, yeah, I did that right for you. I'm just like, okay. It felt really similar to how it feels after I have JD O'Rourke do a deification for me. You know, like I've just got like a ton of fucking extra energy that's engulfed around me, and I still feel that way. It's been like almost a week now since you did that, and that was a badass rite. Like, you have to give me the ins and outs of that, and I'm gonna do like a video review for you on that. We'll have to do a whole separate podcast on that ritual. Like,
so I'm gonna say one little thing about your black web, bro, because you gave me a bottle of your black web. So I've been using that for this crazy fucking application. Once a person signs a pact, that they sign it in their blood, and then black web over the top of that, and do what the whole pact just gets wrapped in this black energy. It just, I mean, to my vision, my spiritual side, it just looks like it's being sucked right to hell. It's so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, that absolutely. You know,
dude, thanks for the stuff, and the iron palm, dude. Every time my fingers start getting raw from playing guitar, I'll just take about an hour off, and I'll put a couple drops of that iron palm and just sit and rub my fingers together, and then go back to it, and it's just like fresh skin. So hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. Well, I appreciate you both, man. I appreciate you, Dr. Mulder. You guys are all awesome, and we'll freaking keep on going. So everyone have a freaking kick-ass night, and yeah, we'll stay in a group chat and find out our next things.
Happy Ishtar, everybody.
Happy Ishtar Day. Yeah.
Have a good one, guys.
All right.
See
Good
you
night.
later, everyone.
Love you guys.